Welcome to the Filthy Clean Pod. This is number 9, and today we have Richard Winkworth from C.L.E.A.N. Welcome, Rich.
Hello, Richard.
Yep, good to be here.
Yeah, good to have you on, mate.
Finally.
Yeah, without a doubt. It's good to see you in person. We've had a good conversation for the last hour or so, and
we've exhausted our content already.
We should have had the camera on already, but no, it's really good to have you on, and thanks for coming up all the way from Kent as well. So that's a bit of commitment. So nice one, anyway. But so as with all the podcasts, it's great to hear a bit of background before we get into your business and who you are and stuff. So just if you can go back to the beginning or wherever you want to be starting from, that'd be great.
Obviously, owner of C.L.E.A.N CCS, been running since 1st of January 2015 is when I started the business. But growing up, I wasn't very good academically. I don't think anyone kind of is at school and plans to be running an external cleaning company. Mm-hmm. You kind of fall into it as a set of circumstances that happen, and you just kind of like fall into doing it. But I grew up on a council estate, super tough, really rough. A lot of fighting, a lot of gangs and stuff like that, and that was quite difficult. And it was kind of like a case of you had to learn to bite or be bitten, really. Mm-hmm. And then went into school. School was really tough for me as well, especially at the start of school when I went into secondary school. It was really tough. I got bullied because my mum was German. My dad met my mum when he served in the army, and he was over in West Germany at the time, and he met my mum there and moved over here. So when I went into school, I was the kid who had a German mum, and back then bullying was rife back then. School was a different place back in the 80s and the 90s, was completely different than it is now.
Didn't have time-out rooms then, did we?
No, didn't have none of that. It was like, just had to fend for yourself. So, when I started school, I got bullied quite a lot for that. Got into a lot of fighting, basically, and I got into one particular fight and punched a guy, and it kind of got myself into a bit of trouble with that, and the school got involved, and the parents all got involved, and I got in a bit of trouble for that one. But then when I went back to school, I think kind of everyone thought, if we keep bullying him, that's going to happen again. Yeah. So the bullying stopped overnight. Yeah. So it went from being really tough in my first year at school to actually my school being okay. And the reason I mention that is because when I think the position I'm in now as a business owner, a lot of my strong points and what I do really well as a business owner, I attribute to what I learned growing up on that council estate and what I learned going through that difficult stage at school. It taught me to be resilient. It taught me to be brave. It taught me to, all the things you need to do. You need to really dig in and have grit and determination and all them things that you have to be a business owner, because it's tough. People don't see it. They don't get it. Other business owners get it, but it's really tough to run a business. And I've been through a lot as a business, for quite a young business as well. I've only been going 10 years, really, which compared to a lot of external cleaning companies is like 5 minutes. And there's not much as a business we haven't been through, and I've needed that grit and determination, and that every time something knocks me down, I've had to have the ability to just go get up, get on with it. No one's ever going to give you anything,
No, you've got to take it.
Of course you do, yeah. That working mentality of graft is super important. My parents were working class. We never went without, but they never had loads of money, and my dad taught me the value of hard work. And that's what I believe I bring as the business owner, that kind of mentality. And people kind of say all the time, don't they? Oh, don't I hate this saying, work smart, not hard. And I'm like, well, why can't you do both? Why can't you do both of those?
Because people look for the shortcut all the time, don't they? And there is no shortcut in business, I don't think. No, it's just hard work.
It almost feels like if you've got a business owner that's on social media and they're like, they're working 15-hour days, 18-hour days, because that's what they need to do at their current time in running a business. It's frowned upon. And for me, I'm like, fair play. I'm like, I think like that's brilliant. I respect that more than anything. I respect a grafter more than anything. So that was the school and that. And the school and growing up, and then I went into a stage of doing just about every job you could ever possibly imagine. I worked
been
for.
there.
Yeah, we all have him. You know, I did Burger King, McDonald's. I sold Kirby vacuum cleaners.
Can't remember them.
You remember they were well expensive, weren't they? Like $2,000. Like, it was like mad.
I think my uncle actually bought one, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
He loved his carpet. But anyway.
So yeah, I did that. I moved around, and this is back in the day where you'd go in the morning, you'd have a row with your boss. You'd get sacked, you'd go to the pub in the afternoon, and you'd have a start in the afternoon. You know, you didn't have to worry about being in and out of work.
Yeah.
And I did that for a little while. And then a mate of mine worked for Citibank at the time, for a corporate investment bank. And I said to him, "What, you couldn't get me a job there, could you?" I had no experience with anything to do with that. And he got me an interview somehow, and somehow I blagged my way into working for a corporate investment bank, and I was based in Lewisham, the big tower there in Lewisham. And it came at a really fortunate time where I went in there as essentially an office junior, but it was when all the European currencies were getting prepared to swap over to the euro. So all the old Deutschmark, French francs, and all them currencies were going, and they set up a task force in the bank to facilitate that swap over. And I went very quickly through the ranks of being T-boy, working for that project group, and I progressed very well. And this was in my very early 20s. And I was earning really good money then, and I did that for maybe 7 years, I think it was, something like that. I ended up staying there for 7 years.
That was a good blag then, wasn't it?
It was a very good blag. My whole life has been a blag.
It normally is the way, though, isn't it? You know?
I'm still blagging right now. So yeah, I did that for a little while. It gave me a good skill set in terms of using computers and stuff like that, which up until that point in my life I never had. Took redundancy, done a bit of travel and that with the missus. No kids then, and then basically a friend of mine needed somebody who could drive 7.5 ton wagon. I could do that for a scaffolding company, so I went and did that for a little while, and I ended up being the driver for the scaffold company. I ended up doing my part 1, my part 2, doing my advanced ticket, and I ended up being a scaffolder for about 8 years in the end. And we did a lot of like paper mill work and power stations and stuff like that. So more the advanced side of scaffolding. Did that for a long time. But the whole time that I was going through this working career, working for a number of different businesses, I was doing kind of the clubbing thing, and I was enjoying myself immensely. We've already discussed this.
Yeah, brilliant. Brilliant days,
time,
never to be
no
repeated.
kids and that. I was earning good money at the bank. We were going out, we were doing the clubbing thing at weekends. We were travelling over the whole of the UK. And what happened was I had my group of mates, and we would go to, say, Ministry of Sound, for example, and there'd be this other group of lads there. And we would keep bumping into this same group of lads on all these nights out. And in the other group of lads, there was a guy called Jamie. And I ended up getting to know Jamie very, very well. And ultimately, he actually ended up being my business partner. Because he was basically a window cleaner, had been from 14, 15 years old, was kicking around Bermondsey, South East London. He was self-employed, just bowling about, cleaning a few windows, whatever work he could scrape together, really. We got on really well, became best of pals. And I was scaffolding, and he pulled me to the side and he said, "Look, I've got a little bit of work here. It's not a lot. We're probably talking maybe 20, 30 grand a year. It really was peanuts." But he said, "I've got a lot of contacts. I think if you want to come on board, we could make a go of it and make a bit of a business of it." He knew that I knew my way around a laptop and a PC, and I could put together a spreadsheet sort of thing. And he basically run, if you could call it a business then, off the back of a post-it note in the cab of the van. There was no office. There was nothing at all. So I took the plunge and did it, and that was the point that C.L.E.A.N was born, basically. We started off, he had a bit of window cleaning in central London. We did some schools in Medway, 4 cleans a year, just in and out of schools and stuff like that. And that's kind of where, the business was born. C.L.E.A.N, the name, I wanted the name C.L.E.A.N, but when I went to register it on Companies House, I couldn't have it because there's a laundry company called C.L.E.A.N. So I was like, and that kind of pissed me off a bit, really. I kind of really wanted it. I had my heart set on it. So I thought, I wonder what happens if I stick the dots in between the letters. So I put that on Companies House, and it allowed me to have it. So that's how the name come about. People still assume it's an abbreviation.
It stands for something,
They always ask me, what does it stand for? I say, well, nothing.
Have you not made anything up yet?
No. I've thought about it loads of times. I've never been able to come up with something.
It wasn't that clever. It was just,
it wasn't that clever. I just
Yeah.
wanted the name C.L.E.A.N. And that's how the business was born. So we actually went about starting the business completely back to front and upside down to what most other external cleaning companies have done. Most companies start off in the residential market. They tend to start off as a window cleaning
It's
company.
the easiest way in, though, isn't it?
Of course they do, yeah. And they start doing the odd patio and the gutters and the driveways and that. And if they're really lucky, at some point they'll have a commercial job fall in their inbox or in their lap, and and they might end up building a business like that. We started as a commercial cleaning company. We did it completely arse about face, and it's really tough doing it around that way. And over a period of time, we won a few contracts and we got a few nice jobs in that. And I think there's probably 3 things that I did very early on in business that were game changers for us and allowed us to scale and allowed us to grow. 2 of them were conscious decisions, good business decisions, not massive, which I'll come on to. And the other one was just right place, right time, just the planets aligned, and we were extremely lucky. And that was, we had a contact who worked for a very big cleaning company based in Welwyn Garden City, so not too far away from here. Mm-hmm. And basically they had an opportunity land in their lap where Whitbread had contacted them, and Whitbread ran all of the Premier Inn contract across the whole of the UK. So the contact phoned us and he said, look, they're having service failure there across the board. The whole Premier Inn contract is chaos, right from top table level, the management, right the way through to the window cleaners actually doing the work, poor quality, missing deadlines, missing schedules, cleans getting missed, complaints all over the place. Would you be interested in looking at it? So we said, yeah, we'll look at it. He fired over the spreadsheet and I looked at the schedule. So basically it was done in zones. So I think it was zone 3 he gave us, which was kind of Kent really. So it was like Margate, Dover, all around that way, Canterbury, Ashford. So I looked at it, and the spec at the time was 4 cleans a year on the hotels, and then you would do monthly cleans on the beefeaters that were attached to the hotels. I think they were called table. This
is why I lost our 5 beefeaters and Whitbreads that we had done.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So it was a monthly on the restaurants, and it was 4 cleans on the hotels. So I looked at the contract, and I looked at the way the scheduling was being done, and just none of it made sense. It wasn't rocket science. So it was, for example, you had, say, 4 hotels in Margate, and 1 was being done in January, 1 was being done in February, and 2 were being done in March. And I was like, why are they not all being done in January? You go and kill them all off in one day. It was just logical, methodical thought process to go through. So I looked at it and I said, look, I'll take this if it's being offered to us, but I want to completely repackage it and schedule it the way I want to do it. And there was a bit of resistance from Whitbread. They didn't want to change it. And I said, look, otherwise I'm walking away. So in the end, they gave up, and we repackaged it, and we delivered it on month 1, and we didn't miss a single clean, didn't miss a single, everything. We hit every mark we had to hit, no complaints. And I think we got into month 2, and they offered us another zone, but that zone was a little bit more further away. So it was Banbury, Kettering, Welwyn Borough, Corby maybe. I think
Corby.
I can't remember now. I'm going back a few years now. Right the way down to Swindon. And then it cut across down to like Reading, Southampton. It was a big area. It was a big area. And because we were based out of the Medway towns in Kent, it was really hard for us to try and schedule that in. But we didn't want to turn it down. We thought it was just an opportunity. We'll just roll with it. So we took that zone on, did the same process, looked at it. It wasn't working. Repackaged it, rescheduled it. I remember at the time we didn't have an office, and I was doing my loft conversion in my house. And it was just plasterboard. And I remember buying the biggest map I could find online, and there was nowhere to fit the map anywhere in my loft. And I remember pinning it against the sloped ceiling and having to kind of lay down with my pins, working out where all the sites were, so that I could kind of route it and schedule it and package it up and stuff. So I did that, and we did that zone for probably another 2 months. Absolutely smashed it. And then we got off at Central London. And with Central London came the bigger sites, so rope access was involved. So we sourced level 3 and a level 1, a couple of Colombian lads who came on with us. They were our rope access team essentially, and we just went through this process. And eventually we ended up with, after I think it was probably about a 7-month period, and the contract was worth $500,000. And we'd only been in business for 8 months. It was the dream start for a company. In terms of window cleaning, yourselves, you guys, you cut your teeth on the window cleaning. You do absolutely tons of it. It was a once in a lifetime contract.
It sounds it. It's been lovely to have got hold of it.
They don't come around that often, and it's regular work, so you know what you're earning every month. And we retained it for probably about 4 years.
I was just going to ask that. Yeah, I was
I
going to
know,
ask
yeah.
you still.
You don't ever keep a contract forever.
No, that's the thing with
They all-
commercial work, isn't it? Though it is
High
very
turnover.
cutthroat. Like you
course it
lose
is.
one big contract, and if you haven't got something to fall back on, that's
Well, that's
Of
what we were
course,
talking
yeah.
about,
A lot
eggs
of
in one
companies.
basket, isn't it? But
Yeah.
like you say, it's a good start, isn't it?
Yeah, it allowed us to go and take on, you know, I think it was 3 or 4 lads at the time, the rope access guys. We went and bought maybe 2 or 3 vans. I can't remember now.
Yeah.
It was you know, it was the best start we could have possibly
Yeah,
have had. So we took that, we retained it for 4 years. Eventually it went out to 10. Well, in between them 4 years, someone came in at top table level for Whitbread and kept messing around. So they went from 4 cleans a year to 2 cleans a year. They then completely changed the cost structure and tried to cost it per window. They played around with it for ages and eventually it went out to tender. And I think Nationwide won it. And I think they won it at about, each site was worth about £3.50. They costed it out and we walked away from it. So yeah, that wasn't for us.
Nice.
So that was that. So that was kind of the first thing that happened to us as a business. And that one I attribute to luck. It was the right place
without
at
a
the
doubt,
right
yeah.
time. We didn't do anything really to earn it. We made good on the luck. People say, you know, you make your own
No,
luck. and-
I was going to say, you
Yeah.
make your own luck. You're
Yeah.
putting yourself out there, and if you put yourself
Yeah.
out there, then luck seems to find you. You know?
100%. And this is something I actually have talked a lot about with some fellow business owners, how much of luck and fate you attribute to success. And I think you can work as hard as you like. If you don't get that slice of cake, you will always struggle. There's always, you know, the most successful people I know that are absolutely, you know, smashing it. At some point, they've just been in the right place at the right time. And I know other companies that are working really hard and they don't get their break.
Yeah.
That's just the way it goes. So yeah, that was our slice of luck that we had.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other 2 things that we did as a business is very early on, I knew that we were a commercial company and that there were a couple of things that we needed. We needed the company accreditation to be taken serious. So I think we'd only been running maybe 4 months. So on top of being on the tools, on top of trying to manage the new Premier Inn contract, I was like, I'm going to go and get my ISO accreditation.
It's a big thing to
I had
do.
no office staff. It was just me. Jamie didn't do anything office-wise. It was all on me. I was working 18-hour days, 7 days a week. It was relentless. So I'm going to go and get my ISO. So I went and achieved my ISO. It took me about a year. So I got my 9001. I then went and got the 14001 because I recognised that, you know, the commercial side of the business, the environmental thing was becoming more and more important when clients were awarding contracts. So we went and got the 14001 as well, and it was almost unheard of a little bit for such a small business like us to have them accreditation. Yeah. So it was a real clever idea, and it opened up over the years afterwards. It opened real doors for us on the commercial side. Okay. You know, I punted it on LinkedIn, I put it on social media, and we was contacted by quite a few people. And again, that allowed us just to grow the business a little bit more. So,
Nice.
So that was probably the second decision. And I think probably the third decision was to buy the 33-metre lorry mount. We had a contact in London. He was using another contractor for all of his cherry picker work, and we were doing bits and pieces for him. We were doing like early morning reach and wash up there, like Fleet Street and stuff like that. A bit of old school internal window cleaning, you know, sitting out on the old sash windows on the ledges and shutting them behind you and all this sort of stuff. Like, yeah, all that kind of stuff we were doing. But that was all he was giving us, was like the hand tool and the reach and wash work. And he was having grief with this other contractor. I remember he called us in early morning one day, pulled us into Costa, sat me and Jamie down, and said, look, I'm having real problems with my guy. I give him about 30 grand a year at the moment in cherry picker work in central London. Would you be interested in doing it? And we're like, well, we haven't got a cherry picker, so that's going to be a problem. So he said, well, go and buy one then. It's worth 30 grand. There's good margin in that. Go and buy a cherry picker. So within the space of about 15 minutes, we decided we were going to go and buy a cherry picker, and that's exactly what we did. So we sourced the 33 from Germany. We bought it. We had it bought over. That stung a little bit because it was right when Brexit was announced,
Okay.
and it took about 6 months for the deal to go through to get the registration papers and get the purchase sorted. And it was up for about 120 grand, I think it was. And everyone was going, why are you buying a cherry picker for 120 grand? We're like, well, we just think it's going to open some doors for us. We've got the work for it. And in the time that we decided to buy it and actually signed the paperwork, the euro against the pound, because of the Brexit, went the wrong way, and it costed us another 10 grand on the exchange rate. So instead of 120, we ended up having to pay 130 for it. So that was a bit painful. So we bought the cherry picker, got it over here, and then we kicked on from that work, and yeah, that was that, and away we went really. So
sounds like a real positive start, though, isn't it? I mean,
it was a flying start.
Yeah, I mean, to have a £500,000 contract fall in your lap, essentially, and then someone say, "I've got work," before you go and buy a cherry picker. Like when we bought our cherry picker, we had nothing for it, so you do that to then try and build it up. So it sounds like you had a really.
That's what I say. Every decision or something that's happened to us, we've gone against the grain. We've done it completely the wrong way round to what most, 99% of other people have done it. So,
but 99% of people don't get offered an £500,000
that's
contract.
Maybe
and 30 grand.
That's what I said to you about luck. But the reason we got offered the 30 grand of cherry picker work is because we was hitting all of our targets for the other work we were doing for him. He probably thought, got a couple of lads here, they're never letting me down. They're doing what they say when they're going to do it. And like you say, that's kind of a case of you make your own luck, really.
You've kept them happy, and they've
of course,
thrown more work your way.
Right, yeah. So hard work at the end of the day gets recognised, hopefully. So and that's exactly what happened. So and then we kind of kicked on the business from there. So and then just went on to be 100% commercial.
Yeah, so you were in a partnership. So what year was that, around 2014, 2015?
So, I registered the company October 2014. Our first trading day was the 1st of January 15.
Okay, so then it was you and this guy, Jamie, building up the business. So I understand you work on your own now. So was it a long time that you were working together? Did you build up the business a lot? Or?
We were in partnership with each other for probably about a year, and then things started going a bit wonky.
Okay.
He was struggling with addiction and stuff, with cocaine and stuff. Like, I'll be completely honest in that. He was struggling with addiction, and it got worse and worse, and it got to the point where he was almost a no-show, and I was doing it all on, completely on my own, 80-hour weeks and stuff like this. And he went and did the rehab and come out, and then he'd fall off the wagon a little bit, and it was just like this constant cycle of thinking you had resolved it, and then more pain, and we were falling out. We've been great mates up until then, and it put a strain on our friendship and stuff as well. So in the end, I said, I'm leaving. So I said, I'm jacking it. I'm going to completely walk away from the business in its entirety, and I'm going to go and start another business. So I registered another company name with Companies House, and I had to go through that process of starting to contact all my commercial clients and saying, look, I'm actually now, walking away. C.L.E.A.N will remain, but it will be Jamie's business. And what became pretty clear pretty quick is that the clients' mindsets were, well, we don't actually give the work to C.L.E.A.N, we actually give it to Richard Winkworth. At that point, I was more the business maybe than the business in its own right, So, and then I think what happened is Jamie realised very quickly that he actually wasn't going to be left with anything, because the clients wanted to come with me. They were, well, no, we don't want to stay, we want to come with you, Rich, when you start up your new business. So in the end, I think Jamie decided that, the only option was to maybe walk away from the business, and ultimately we structured a deal and I bought him out. I'm still very good friends with Jamie.
Good.
He is now running his own window cleaning company, does a huge amount of work in London, cradle work. He's been sober for 4 years.
Good.
And that is a success story. I never thought that would happen. That is that people talk about what success is all the time. What does it look like? People have got different ideas about that. But for me, that is success, overcoming that and now being where he's been. So we're still really close. He eyes the pickers off me and stuff like that. So it turned out for the best in the end. So it's good.
Well, that's good though, because half the time, well, not half the time, but I know partnerships are very, very difficult. I had a similar introduction into my business with a friend of mine, where he showed me what to do and everything else, and I just felt that it wasn't a two-way street and I could go and do it on my own, and which I did, But it's good that you can obviously remain friends after, because partnerships are very, very difficult, and especially when it's either family or friends, fair play,
Yeah, so that was kind of how we parted from each other. And then it kind of, we went for, we traded for 3 or 4 years, it might have been, and then of course there was COVID.
I was going to ask about that,
Which for us as a commercial cleaning company was devastating. I remember when COVID was announced on March the 26th, or 23rd, I think it was, I can't remember, I think it was March the 26th. I think in April we had about 80 grand booked in, 85 grand of commercial work, and within 48 hours I had 2 grand left on the schedules. And I thought, well, that's that. I remember sitting on my kitchen island one night looking at the schedules like 3 days after lockdown and thinking, well, that's that then. Game over. well, I'm going to go back to being scaffolder or something, yeah, you know. So for a commercial business, it was absolutely devastating.
I bet.
We done a lot of money, a lot of our savings we done to try and get through it, which was really tough. I lost my biggest ever single job because of COVID. I had a job where I was cleaning a building in London. Can't mention the building because I still do the window cleaning there and stuff. So it's got an NDA attached to it. But the planned works were coming in at around about $500,000 for one job. It took me like 9 months of sample cleans and liaising with the client to get it over the line. And just as we was on the verge of getting the PO for the whole job, COVID happened, so it cancelled off and it never came back online. They decided to bin it off in the end. So that was tough. So COVID cost me a huge amount of money. Whilst it was a negative, and at the time it was a negative, it is the only reason we now do residential cleaning is because of COVID.
Yep.
Otherwise it would probably have never happened. Doing any sort of window cleaning on houses, patios, driveways, roof cleaning was never something that was in our eye line. It was something that we never planned in terms of our growth or scaling the business. We used to get offered it a little bit and we used to go, no, it's not for us, we're a commercial cleaning company. No, and at the time we saw it as being a commercial cleaning company, we wasn't jack of all trades, we was master of one. Mm-hmm. And it just kind of made sense to us. But then when COVID happened and we went into lockdown and we were kind of sitting home and everyone was furloughed and I was at home and I wasn't used to spending a lot of time at home because just working with on the business all the time, it was just work. And to be honest, I think the missus and kids would probably drive me absolutely mental.
What about the other way around?
Yeah. I think she probably will kick me out. Please go back to work. So I think I had a friend of mine who I was just chatting with on the phone, and he wanted his roof cleaned. And I was like, no, we don't do roofs. And oh, come on, you've got nothing else to do. You're not working at the moment because everything had shut down.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, thanks. So I grabbed one of my lads who was on furlough. I said, come on, we're going to go and clean a roof. By that time, we was a few weeks into it and everyone had kind of decided it was okay to still go out and work for us, as long as you went in separate vehicles and all this sort of stuff. So we went out and I cleaned my mate's roof and I did it for free. I didn't even charge for it. It was just to get out of the house. And then a friend of a friend saw it and we ended up doing that. And then someone on the road saw us do that one. And then by that time I was like, I'll go and do it for like 400 quid. And we went and cleaned that one. It got to the point where we did about 8 or 9 roofs. And I said to the office, I think there might be some legs in this, we was using the 33 metre for it. So it was nice and easy with the access. We had all the equipment and everything. I said, so over the course of COVID, we started building, the roof cleaning side of the business. And now we're, probably, I don't know. I mean, it's hard to always say if you're the biggest. I mean, how's that measured? I don't know, but we're cleaning a few roofs now. We're probably doing this year. I think we'll probably do maybe 300, maybe 350. I don't know. I don't really have too much to do with the residential side of the business.
It's a lot of roofs.
It's a fair amount of roofs, and it's it's generating a lot of money.
We were doing a lot of roofs at one point.
Yeah,
weren't we?
COVID was. We were the other way around with COVID, I think. I mean, obviously, all our commercial customers, they were all like, no, outsides only, or if that. But with the roofs and any exterior cleaning, just seems to just go bang.
Yeah.
And I think we added a couple of vans.
But we actually doubled in size in that year. We doubled our turnover. Yeah. We were doing a lot of free cleans. I mean, free cleans around MK, so it got us a lot of attention, didn't it?
Yeah, we're sanitising local areas.
Sanitising local areas.
Outside shops, hospital, down at the cancer place at Willen Lake.
Yeah. And then we were offering to do schools for free and stuff like that.
It built us a lot of traction on Facebook and that. And then people were just coming to us, can you do this, can you do this, can you do it? And it just went absolutely mental to the point where I got pulled off of the tools to go out and start quoting all of this new work that was coming in. So it was a bit of a...
And now you are today doing the podcast.
Yeah. I sort of climbed the window cleaning ladder.
Yeah, COVID's a strange one because it ruined so many people and it also made so many people.
Yeah, absolutely.
We did a roof clean on a really big house in a place called the Keston Estate, which is kind of South London. It's a private gated place. The houses are all 10 million plus. It's nice. It's nice. It was one of our first ever roof cleans we did, and I was chatting to the fella there, and he was like, "I was like, what do you do?" He's like, "I make boxes." what do you mean? I make like boxes and storage boxes. And I got chatting to him, and it was COVID was his most, he'd been in business 30 years. And COVID was his most profitable year he had ever had, because everyone was at home going, what am I going to do? Oh, I'll sort the house out. I'll get in the loft and sort the loft out. So his sales went absolutely through the roof. Like,
it's a funny time. I mean, my dad, for instance, he, similar to you, like he deals with commercial, putting staff into like businesses. So he went from, having 500 temps out or whatever he has. I don't know how many he has out, but 500 temps out to having 2 or something like that the day after. But then he got involved with all the PPE for COVID and got huge contracts over at, what's the air hangers in Bedford?
I know what you mean, Dan.
Begins with C, can't think of it. But anyway, so yeah, he had this huge contract that made him shitloads of money. So from going from nothing to, he had his best, I can't remember what his profit levels were, but humongous,
It's bittersweet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like you see people going bankrupt because of it, and then you see other people absolutely thriving off of it, and it was so cruel.
Yeah.
So COVID for us, in one hand, was devastating really for the. I mean, it came back online eventually, but short term it was pretty devastating. But we also, born through that came the residential side, and now we're cleaning a few roofs, and we've got this whole residential side, which was never on the cards. It wouldn't have happened, I don't think.
So is that why because you've got 5 cherry pickers now? You were saying earlier, wasn't it?
Yeah, so we've got 5 pickers now. We've got the 33, which, to be honest, we're selling. We're getting rid of it. And the reason being is I've lost my driver. I've got no one else in the company that can drive the 33 at the moment. I'm the only person who can do it. So I've tried to put a couple of my lads on their LGV to learn to do it, and I think midway through me paying for them to do it, they've left the business. They both left the business, so I'm the only one that can drive it. So I'm selling it at the moment to get rid of that. We've got CTE 21, and then we've got 2 MZ25 multi-tails, and we've got one of the multi-tail MJEs, which is the straight stick ones as well. So we've got 5 pickers. They're not all out on the road every day. I'd say on average 3 of them are out. The fleet is 14 at the moment, I think. 14 vehicles.
Oh, what? So with total, all your vans?
Yeah,
and
in total,
else,
I think we're sitting at 14 at the moment. But one of the window cleaning vans has just blown up. It's done 220,000 miles. So I'm not sure at the moment whether I'll replace that. I might just try and keep that off the fleet.
We've got 2 like that at the minute, haven't we?
Yeah.
The 2 new ones.
It's earned its money. Do you know what I mean? I have to let it go. So I might not replace that. So yeah, we're at 14 at the moment, which I think is a good number. I'm pretty pleased with that.
Yes, good sized business, So with the amount of pickers you've got then, do you have like one that just goes out on roofs every day, or do you just, how do you schedule them, what work
pretty
do they
much.
do?
I mean, the work, we obviously utilise our own pickers for our own commercial work, so it's a real mix basically. So it's very rarely we'll ever go and do a roof without using a picker on it, unless there's no access, of course, and you can do it off an alley tower, which we do. But most of the time where we get through the roofs so quickly is because, we were talking about it earlier on. If we were to take our 2 teams and you was to be on identical houses, and if your lads are going to be doing it off of an alley tower, they're going to take 2 days, whereby we might knock it out in a day because we're just in a picker. You ain't got to dismantle and move and re-erect it and all of that. Yeah, you're just in a picker, you're just cleaning all day long. So I'd probably say 2 of the pickers are out every day doing roofs. And then we get other cleaning companies hiring the pickers a lot. So, we got other, quite a few people. We've got Lloyd Cotter who hires our pickers out. We've got Chris Cloak, Adrian Brooks, Chris Brooks. We hire our pickers out to a lot of other external cleaning companies for their roof cleaning as well. So
King of the Skies, isn't it? Your nickname, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. I'm not sure about that. I think that's all very weird, to be honest with you. I've got a lot of names, and most of them we can't talk about on here. So that's for a different podcast. That's for a different filthy podcast, isn't it? So So the pickers are a real mix. We utilise them for our residential, we utilise them for our commercial, and then of course they go out and do the hires as well. So they're great tools to have, I think, to be honest with you. And for us, it was a no-brainer going buying them. I can't see why I would have a monthly cost using another access company when for that spend I can go and buy a cherry picker.
Well, like I say, we've done it obviously totally opposite to you, where we had the picker, we didn't have any work for it, we were trying to build it up, but it was just, the thing was just costing what it was costing each month. And then in the end, we just sort of said it's not worth it to us, But I do understand the getting the job done quicker. We spoke about that before. but it just wasn't enough there for us to warrant keeping it, you know. And then we obviously hire out pickers, I say all the time, but we're pretty much, you know, every month we've got a picker, haven't we? But the problem we've got at the moment is the pickers that we use, the MZ that we had wouldn't have been ideal for that anyway. So but I understand what you're saying, because, you know, as soon as I would see that, we're spending what it would cost to lease one, we're going to get another one, no problem, you know. So it makes total sense, you know.
I think when you've got the cherry pickers as well, I think like if you're say you're I mean, there's 100% nothing wrong with cleaning roofs off of towers, but what I always think is that team using that tower isn't necessarily always getting seen by everybody. And we get a lot of our work is follow-on work, so it's the neighbours driving down and seeing us clean the roof, and if you've got a cherry picker on site, that's much more visible. And I think it, you know, people's ears prick up. Oh, what is a cherry picker in their garden there? What are they having done there? And I think it just screams out roof cleaning. And I think that wins us a lot of work as well when the pickers sign written. You've got the big vans on site. You know, all of our roof cleaning vans are like the long wheelbase, the biggest ones you can buy. They're the L4s, you know, the H2s or whatever they are. And we've got clean spread, complete full wraps on them. You know, it's great marketing, it's great advertising. That is your billboard, really.
Yeah, of course.
So that there's an element of that as well. I think that maybe you're attracting new clients and potential clients through just having a cherry picker on site, and the clients love it. They love having 200 grand's worth of kit turning up on site, and that obviously then also allows us to build value into that service in what is becoming a really difficult, saturated market. On top of that, with the leads slowing up at the moment, which seems to be the general consensus across multiple industries. It's not just the cleaning, it's coming across for everybody at the moment. I think we're in for a real tough time. But so I just think it helps a little bit with that. Not essential, but for us, it works for us. But every business is different at the end of the day.
I think because the thing though that we said, like you said, with after lockdown, we were doing loads of roofs, weren't we? It was like pretty much 2 teams every day, wasn't it? You know,
it was going absolutely mental. I was everywhere.
But then it just seems to have slowed down for us in terms of inquiries. But what we're able to do is the roofs we are cleaning, we're charging a lot more money for. So actually, financially, it's stacking up better than what it was back then. But obviously, we're just not doing as many. I mean, we pretty much had a team of 2 out every day, other than this like last 2 or 3 weeks, month maybe.
It's quieting down in the last few months.
Slowed up. What we have now, because we were talking about tracking numbers earlier on. We're pretty good on tracking our numbers. So we've looked back at the last 2 years, and every single Easter we've seen a drop off.
Well, we were the same.
Every year that's happened, so nothing unusual about that. And as soon as Easter's done, it picks up again. We haven't seen that this year, so numbers don't lie. So there's something strange going on there, but you kind of take a bit of solace and go, well, we know we're not doing anything wrong as a business, because we're seeing it across multiple industries. You know, multiple external cleaning companies are all saying the same things. So you're not doing anything wrong as a business. It's just that I think people ain't spending money. But it's interesting that you said earlier on you're seeing your quality of lead going up. We've seen exactly the same. Probably the last 4 to 6 weeks, I think we've had consistently more bigger roofs agree and less of the smaller stuff. And that screams to me that maybe people who have got money have still got money.
I think for us, though, that's been a pattern over the last few years. I'm right in saying this, and that we don't see as many as the 1 day roofs as we do as the 2, 3, 4.
There's more 2 and 3 day roofs than there is.
So and I just honestly believe that that's with the YouTube presence and everything else, where, you know, totally agree with what you're saying with your cherry pickers and the presence on the street. But our presence online is definitely helping us win better, bigger, quality work. You know,
I mean, there's loads of angles for it. I mean, ultimately, as a business, you need to be doing all of them. You need to be completely saturating the market yourself with your branding. When I first started doing the social media stuff, I almost gave myself a mission statement when I was trying to build a business. We wasn't using social media, and I said this is real early on, so I said to Jay, we need to be doing stuff on Facebook and LinkedIn and that. So I gave myself a mission statement that I even wrote it down at the time on a bit of paper, and it was ram clean down everyone's throats. That was my mission statement to myself.
That's good business, you know.
Yeah, and that was it. Nice and simple, 1 line. And I did that relentlessly for years. I was posting almost daily. It almost became an obsession. And if I didn't post a day, I was like, "You're not succeeding. You know, you're failing here." So I literally did that, and it was a mindset that if at any point anyone needed window clean or a gutter clean or some pressure washing doing, I wanted them to think, oh, Clean do that. It was that's what the aim was, which of course is what marketing and advertising is essentially.
Consistent
and it had to be consistent. We don't do anywhere near. I don't do anywhere near as much that now. We've got somebody, a third party, that does our LinkedIn and TikTok and all that sort of stuff. I'm not sure if it's as well received as maybe when I did it myself, because it was much more personal when I did it, and people buy from people, as we all know, and I was always very honest over social media with my posting. What I really dislike is companies that just constantly, we've delivered another project perfectly, and it's and it's great to shout about your wins. But for every win, there's 10 failures behind the doors.
We see that.
The whole marketing strategy that we're doing now and have been for the last 2 years is transparency.
Yeah.
And you can't be transparent by saying that, like you say, everything's great all the time, No. It just doesn't work that way. And obviously, that was the thing that drew me to that, is I can't stand the bullshit,
Yeah.
Just say it as it is. I understand that, no one wants to see negative posts all the time. Bloody hell, this has been hard, that's been hard, but just balance it a bit, Celebrate your wins, but celebrate some of the losses and how you overcome them losses, I
used to get private messaged a lot by other smaller cleaning companies saying, "Oh, Rich, how do I scale a business? How can I possibly answer that over Messenger? It's the impossible question." But a lot of people used to message me and say, "What's really refreshing about your social media, Rich, is about how honest you are. And if you've got a tough day, you say it's a tough day. And if you lose a contract, you're on here saying you've lost a contract and why that's happened." And I think there's a lot of people out there that are smaller companies that look to what other people are doing on social media, and they see companies posting success consistently. But what it actually does, it makes them feel like they're doing something wrong when they're probably not. They're probably ticking all the boxes.
It's all a game, mate.
Of course it is. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So the social media thing. Yeah, we do a bit on it now. It's nowhere near on the level that we used to do. But we don't really need to maybe do quite as much now to that. We've kind of built a client base now where we get a lot of work coming to us from a lot of different angles, and maybe we should still be doing it. I don't know. It might come to a point where the leads continue to dry up a little bit. Things are a little bit slow at the moment, and maybe we need to review that and go, no, our social media presence needs to be stepped up again.
Just adjust.
I think that's what we try to do as well. And again, following the direction we're going, because you've got a world of AI and everything else now.
I don't understand any of that.
I'll tell you, I'm using it more and more, and I'll tell you what I'm doing. Probably more so off camera, but I've just got a few things where it's helping me legally with a few things, and it is fantastic. It would have cost me thousands with solicitors and everything before. But anyway, no, I just find it a very, very good tool. But at the same time, it's still no replacement for a human being, and people do buy off people. And again, with all the marketing that we're trying to do about getting in front of the camera, doing a podcast, it's trying to humanise who we are. It's trying to get people to understand what we're about, and I think, like you said there, with not posting that way, it then becomes Clean as the brand, as opposed to Rich, who is the approachable, likable guy who probably connects with, So it's just trying to get that across, which
it's a balance. It's a difficult balance to do. I think if you go too much in any direction, it can actually be a little bit damaging to the business. So trying to get that balance takes time, and you need to measure it. In my opinion, everything you do in business, you need to measure. You need to record it, and then you can sit down and look at them numbers. We talked about numbers earlier on, and how important numbers are. It's something that I never used to really focus too much on. And pre-COVID, I was having some business coaching, and what she really focused on was understanding the numbers, and really drilled that into me. And then when COVID happened, I ended up cancelling off that. It didn't happen. I never signed back up for it. But people say all the time, well, what's your advice for scaling and growing a business? And I'm like, well, know your numbers. We said earlier on, didn't we? And I say to people, however much time you're spending on looking at your figures and your numbers, quadruple it, and you're probably not anywhere close to the time you should be spending on it. You need to understand your profit and loss. You need to understand your cash flow forecasts and your sales figures. And, for us, our profit and loss is probably our biggest document. And we sit down and we look at that every month and see, you know, what's our margin, you know, what's our cost of sale, where's your fixed cost. The amount of business owners that don't know the difference between, you know, truly what a cost of sale is and what a fixed cost is, and get the two confused with one another is surprising. And really, it's the basics of business.
You see that? I mean, I saw that on Dragon's Den a few times where they drill into the numbers and they're like, oh, my accountant deals with that. You know, your accountant isn't the business owner. You know, you need to understand it and know where you're spending your money, where it's going, and then just try and overcome that and make a profit at the end of the day. You know, but you're right. It's I've spoken to lots of people before, and it's the same sort of thing where they just haven't got a clue where it is. But you know, I mean, I've definitely been guilty of that in the past, in the early days, because I think we shared a similar thing where both go-getters, both very much like driven and just go. I want it done now. And you know, that's kind of what happens here a bit, and then I have to sort of rein it in. But it's so I've been sort of guilty of probably not looking at the finer detail in the beginning and just going at it, you know.
It's not your personality, though. That's what we were talking about.
Yeah. And it's So, but at the same time, with maturity and with being in a game a long time, you do need to know your numbers. You do need to know exactly where you're going and what's going on. So, totally share them sentiments, you know.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's, people say, like, so when people are scaling a business, there comes a point when the scaling needs to be done in the office, not just about adding cleaning techs or another external cleaning van or window cleaning van. You know, you need to scale in your office, and I don't think people pay really enough attention to how important the personality we were talking about earlier on. What role the personality and the type of person you are plays in your business, and how that's going to benefit the business moving forward. You're red and I'm red. You know, there's green and blue, and they are different personalities, and it's important to have that balance in your office, because what will happen is you'll disagree with green and you'll disagree with blue, and green will disagree with blue, but ultimately if you're making a business decision, what will happen is normally you'll reach some sort of middle ground, and that's normally the right decision. It's a good balance to have, and I have that in my office.
We do as well. It's harmonious. I mean, it's not. It's good. I've done loads of stuff on self-development and all of that, personality development. The Enneagram, I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but that's a personality system, I guess you could call it. And you're right. The sort of the personality I've got. I actually got John to do it. It was like 130 questions. It was after I employed him, so it was all good. But it was actually surprising to see where his qualities were. His qualities were very much for his role, which was great. But you're right. It's just having that balance of personalities. And we said it, you know, like we had that little thing with the PayPal thing the other day, and I said it's all, you know, it's all good. But no, I'm just saying that, you know, so we could have quite easily blown up and had a disagreement.
Yeah, we was both having a bad morning. But
can you imagine having like 3 reds running the business?
But you wouldn't.
It would be carnage.
You wouldn't, would you? You know, and that's the thing. It's just having that harmonious workplace, you know. And thankfully, every one of us that are in here, we all get on, you know, and we all have our own individual roles, and we play them roles well. So totally get where you're coming from, you know. And it has to be.
That probably contributes more towards your success that you're currently having as a business, as maybe you probably even realise consciously. It's something that happens. It doesn't even get noticed. It doesn't really get monitored as such. You know, there's no numbers for that. It's just something that happens, but it really adds strength to any business.
You know, in the scale of being open and honest, as I said, 2 years ago when we liquidated, we could have quite easily have just chopped that overhead. But I personally and my brother, we both had so much faith in our team that we can do this and we can scale this and we can take it further, that we would rather go down that route than actually cut the costs of what we've got going in the business, because we know we've got a decent thing going and we know we've got a decent team. And that is proving as we're going and we're developing, you know, this side of it, you know. So it's, just looking at, like you say, it's just having that sort of balance of things where everyone's got their role to play. And it definitely is the recipe for success, you know.
Completely agree.
So what about marketing, Rich? Do you find that you have to market a lot? I mean, obviously you're now doing cleaning roofs. You've got your commercial side. Have you got sort of 2 tactics maybe for each one? Or
the marketing side. We've never generated anything for our website. Our website is always, because you tend to find the commercial side of the business, you don't really get a lot of inquiries coming through the website. It tends to be, you know, a managing agent or a facilities manager. They'll know someone else and they'll speak, and a lot of inquiries tend to come through that route. So And the website, up until we're building a new website at the moment, it's not finished at the moment. It's kind of a work in progress. So our website, historically as a business over the last 10 years, has generated almost zero revenue, which is really unusual. And that's
You definitely have done it arse about face, haven't you?
Oh, we completely, as I say, yeah, it's almost like we've deliberately tried to challenge ourselves and we make it as difficult as possible. So yeah, the website historically has generated zero for us, and it's a massive trick. You know, I know other external cleaning companies where it generates like 70 or 80% of their inquiries. So we've kind of figured out that we're missing a trick here, and we've had to spend some real time on doing the website, and it's taken ages to do it because a lot of cleaning companies out there tend to use, you know, like library pictures and stock pictures and stuff like that. So and we didn't want to do that. I wanted them all to be our own pictures, and it's taken a long time to get them and source them. So the website is a work in progress. In terms of Facebook, which I know is a big one for people, we use Christian C.L.E.A.N for that from Trade Growth Systems. I was probably within the first 10 clients that he ever signed up, so I got my foot in the door with him really, really early, and we've never strayed from him at all. Got a great working relationship. Him and his team are constantly working to keep on top of the lead generation. You know, they need to swap things around. I don't really understand
It's all algorithms,
exactly
isn't it?
what
Yeah.
they do, but they need to keep changing things up and renewing stuff, and they take away the worst performing ads and replace them with other ads. So we work really close with Christian, who's been phenomenal for us, really. Yeah, of course, it's a fair cost every month. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't, but when we look at what the return is on that, it pays for us, it works for us. Some months are better than others, obviously. Our hit rate is, I don't know, maybe between 30 or 40%.
Really, that high on Facebook?
On that, but we've got a real stringent process. Now I hear people about going around and surveying every roof cleaning inquiry that comes in.
That was us.
You can't do that. You just can't run a business like that. It's not sustainable. You just can't do it. It's too much effort. So we've put things into place where we don't work like that. You know, we only go and survey jobs once we've won them, and you know, we've got loads of things that we've worked really hard on over the years for that. Google is obviously a good one. But obviously the difference between Facebook and Google is that Facebook is essentially a cold lead. You know, it's somebody flicking through their feed, and then roof cleaning pops up and they're window shopping. Oh, well, I'll have that done, until they realise
That's
it's
what
a
I'm
grand.
saying. That's what I'm saying. 30 to 40% is a high number for that. You know?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's really good. So whereby a Google is, you know, it's a hot lead. You know, someone's gone into a search engine and gone, I want my roof cleaned.
Specifically
They
looking
want
for
it
you.
doing. So obviously your conversion rate on that is going to be much higher. So, but what you must do in terms of when you're deciding about what to do on your marketing, again, you have to keep the numbers. How can you make a decision if you don't have the information? So you need to see where every lead is coming in, what's the route into the business, you know, how much is it worth, and then you need to understand all your conversion rates, and you need to have that, and then you need to put that into some sort of summary analysis.
That's why I got cold feet with that, because obviously we use Christian C.L.E.A.N only for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. That just got cold feet straight away because it just wasn't working.
No,
but
of course,
maybe you should have just to give it more time and let
stuck
him,
with it and that. Yeah, of
and
course,
work his magic. But I think it was just for us as well. It was the quality of the lead was just so poor for us, and we were having to give away bloody gutter cleans we do anyway, but driveway cleans and
I was going around
other
since
bits
that
and
had, like,
bobs.
Just a sweetener sort of thing.
But it worked. The numbers, we didn't think the numbers were there, you know, not
I think
for
it
us.
comes down to area as well. I think that dictates the quality of the work. Obviously, if you're based in an area where there's loads of terraced houses, for example, that are on the smaller end of the square meterage, then clearly your sale ticket price isn't going to be as high. But we're quite lucky down in Kent. We've secured the whole of Kent with Christian. We've had it for since 2019 now, or however long it's been. And we've got some lovely areas down there. But what we do is we swap postcodes. So like you were saying, the leads weren't great. So what will happen is when we swap from Sevenoaks or Tunbridge Wells, which is really nice area, and we go to Margate and Canterbury, the lead quality drops. But you have to give them areas a rest. You can't continuously bombard them with marketing.
We do it for window cleaning, and we do that in house. And you're right. Is that you get like a good burst, or it goes out to so many people. You get a good amount of leads, and then it just simply dries up. Then you swap that, move it around, and do all of that.
And that's part and parcel of that. You have to stomach those real better periods with the better work, the quality work, which is really what you want. That's your ideal client. And then sometimes you have to go, right, we just need to give it a rest now, and you've got to go and clean some small houses. But we look at it as a bit of a break for the lads, maybe. So we get work coming in from obviously from Google, and we've got some other things. So we do a lot of networking. We do one called Get Go. We do the BNI stuff. We get work coming in from there on the residential side, bits and pieces.
No good for commercial stuff, them doing that, or
yeah, we've had some nice work off of the BNI on the commercial stuff. Yeah, it's potluck. To be honest with you, you know, you never really know what you're going to get. You know, in our first year of BNI, I think it generated about 45 grand for us.
it's not bad, is it?
Like, yeah, but 24 of that was one job.
Okay.
Which we do twice a year. No, 28 grand. That
Still stacks up, you know.
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah. So that's been quite good. We've done a lot of marketing that hasn't worked. We've spent a huge amount of money that hasn't worked. You know, leaflets for us have partially worked, but we would consider it to be a failure when you consider the time, the effort, and the investment.
I've just never bought into the leaflets. Always,
tried it a few times.
well, it's got like little toe, you know. I could just never, like. Obviously, I know there's some bigger operators out there that are quoting things like 40 grand, 50 grand on a massive leaflet dump.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just, it's like buying a 3-legged turkey that goes out of date next week, you know. It's the unknown.
Yeah.
I can't see it. But so you've tried leaflets.
Yeah, we've never done door knocking yet. I haven't got anyone at the moment in the business that I could send out to do that. I hear that that's a really good route to get the work. So that side of it we haven't tried. A lot.
To get what work? Roof cleaning.
Yeah, go door knocking for roof cleaning and that.
We tried that a little bit, haven't we?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, we always found it sort of difficult to go and knock on someone's door and offer them a clean that's going to cost them sort of 600 quid upwards or whatever.
600 quid.
No, I mean I'm going back then.
Okay.
Leaflet dropping in the area where you've cleaned a roof and structuring a leaflet that says we've been in your area and we have cleaned the roof at number Smith Avenue. Drop it in there and they look at it, and then next time they drive past 1 Smith Avenue, they take a look at it and they go, oh, actually, you know what, that looks all right. So we've had some work like that from leaflets, but it's having the time for the teams to go out at the end of the job and do the leaflet job. A lot of the time they're knackered, you know what I mean?
And we find that we've put so many incentives in place for our teams to do, you know, even when you clean the window, put the neighbours' leaflets and all of this. Yeah. It just doesn't happen.
I've offered picture bonuses because the pictures that come in from the lads are just shit. And you don't want to be
picture bonuses. I've just got that.
Give me some decent pictures, and I'll do a best picture of the month. Do you know what I mean, for social media? Because without decent pictures, I think pictures are super important on social media.
Yeah.
If you put in low quality, crap pictures, to me it screams out that maybe your business is low quality. So good quality, well framed pictures, but it's like gold dust trying to get it off the lads. They're useless. You get the finger in the lenses and
sounds like yours.
Smudges
we used to take a photo of the before of the roof from this spot here and take the same after. And the after will be taken from over there.
Yeah, they can't do that.
Like,
incapable.
Simple, like.
So we've tried all that sort of stuff, and it kind of gets us nowhere. We've done things like cold email campaigns. So we've used another company to do that, and we're still doing that. We started it in January, and when we took them on, they said that's potluck. Yeah. It's a structured email that's proven on past results. And they're just firing it out to thousands and thousands of commercial companies, business estates, industrial estates, and all sorts of stuff. We've not yet had a single job off.
I wouldn't have thought you would.
Not had one, but for their other clients that they've done it for, they've landed some absolutely huge jobs. They've done it for an electrical company.
They've told you that or shown you that?
Like $1 million. Well, we know the guy from BNI, so we know it's not a blag or anything like that. Yeah. Done it for an electrical company. Cold email, landed like £1 million electrical contract off of it. Nice. So it seems to have worked for everyone else, but for us it just hasn't happened. So that comes back to that fate thing that we were talking about earlier on. You know, we've made a good business decision to do a cold email campaign. We've done everything we can do to position ourselves in the best possible position to win work off of it, and it hasn't happened. That is just purely because that cold email.
But at the same time, you've done that, but then you've done all the other things, and some of the other things happen, don't they?
Yeah, so of course,
you're putting yourself out there, and then that's where the luck finds you.
Of course,
because you just find your way, don't you?
Of course, ultimately, to have success, you need to have as many streams as possible coming into your lap.
And just don't stop. Do you know what I mean?
You've got to be relentless with it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a period, probably about 4 years ago, where the accountants we had at the time, which were just not business people, they were bookkeepers, but they were saying, you have to take your foot off the gas. You have to stop. I don't know stop. I don't know taking foot off the gas. No. Obviously, my brother was more encouraged by that, saying, look, we should listen to him. So I was like, okay, we'll try that for 6 months. Like, I'll just not push much. You just started going backwards. And I was like, right,
course,
now listen to me, we're going forward. And that's the only direction I know. Do you know what I mean?
Of course,
try this, try this. See what works, do more of it. See what don't, get rid of it.
Don't dilly-dally over decisions as well. Like I see so many people that take ages over a decision. And, you know, by that time, you've kind of the opportunity might have gone and passed.
To be honest, I feel like that on COVID. I said that, wasn't it? Is that, you know, COVID happened very quickly. I was on the phone to ACAS, and ACAS said, so I was like, right, let me get this straight. He's just announced that if they're in individual vans, they've got face masks, you know, they're cleaning their surfaces, if they're touching gates or whatever they're doing, you know, we can work. And she said, well, you take that interpretation if you want to, but I'm not telling you you're right or wrong. I was like, cool. Next day, straight out. And everyone was out.
Two metre meeting in the morning.
Just
at a distance.
You know, but I'm just saying that we done that, and then we so then what we were doing, we noticed that we had like our older customers were very paranoid about us going to their property. They were locked in their houses, so we started sanitising their gates and that, so they could just go into the garden because they were shit scared about leaving their house.
Of course,
and then we realised, and they were so grateful, so thankful, and it was such an easy thing to do. So then that's when we started offering it free everywhere else, and it was just a brilliant marketing thing. But what I'm trying to say is, where you said about don't dilly-dally, think quick. We thought quickly then, when people were still talking about furlough a month, 6 weeks down the line, you know, we were like doubling in size.
I'm worrying about what their competitors were doing.
Do you know what I mean? And we were just on it. And that was it. And I'm not, you know, we just knew we could do it. So don't, like I say, quick thinking sometimes is good. I mean, I've spoke about that as well. Sometimes quick thinking can get you into
That's why you need the green and that's why you need the green and blues in the office to pull the reins back a little bit.
And that is true, you know, definitely true. Because like I say, my brother, when we go over stuff, he's definitely much more like that, a bit more cautious, and let's think about this when, you know, I'm off, you know.
I just think, like, especially when it comes to spending money, just do it. At the end of the day, if you're buying an asset, just if it doesn't work out, sell it. It's as simple as that. I listened to the podcast the other day that you did with Mark Tuvey from Alfresco, and he was talking about the soft wash systems and the Darren Smith thing and that, and we kind of jumped into that at the very early stages of that. And I went down to see Darren at his offices at Ashford to get some advice on buying a small mobile system. Is all we wanted for a bit of render cleaning. And I went down there, and within 30 minutes of being in his office, I'd bought his entire demo vehicle at 30 grand. I bought the soft wash system. It was the system he took to the show and everything. I bought the van, the system, the whole lot. I just literally walked in there and I went, this is exactly what we need for the type of work we were doing at the time. We were doing big warehouses and data centres and stuff like that. And within 30 minutes of in there, I'd just gone, no, that's what I want. I'm having it. And I bought it off him. Yeah. And it was on all right system. I know you talked a little bit about Mark about it and how you guys got on with those soft wash systems. And we used it for probably about a year, and it was... We kind of then learned very quickly that was probably not one of my best business decisions.
Same as that.
We just felt like it was over-engineered, over-complicated.
Absolutely.
Constantly we're getting airlocks in it. Probably due to user error, more than the equipment, I would probably say.
Buy into that,
We realised very quickly we didn't need that. We could do the same work, but do it through using other bits of equipment.
Well, we've done exactly the same. We bought the truck second hand, and it was pretty much like you were saying, really. I mean, I didn't buy a brand new one. I actually bought a second hand one from Tom Alger at CIS in Birmingham, but that was just because I had a conversation with Ziggy at Veritech about buying a van with a steam setup, or, you know, we wanted to go down that route. So then he said, I know, you know, Tom's looking to sell one. So we bought it, paid for it. It was a total wrong decision for us. Yep. It was just too big, too clunky. No one could get bloody insured on the thing. It was like, you know, it was unreliable. But I do buy into the fact, like you said, probably a lot of user error. No one really knew how to use it. Yep. But, you know, we got rid of that a year ago, and we've literally bought a £1,200 Honda soft wash pump.
Yep.
And we are smashing it. Yeah. You know, that literally
it's easy to use.
Easy, it's reliable. You can throw it in the van.
Yeah.
All right, with batch mixing, so you're not, you know, you didn't have to do that with a truck, but does it? Do you know what I mean?
Problem is, I'm a salesman's dream. That's it. They see me walk in the door and they mean, oh, this is sold. You know what I mean? And I've got myself into a bit of trouble over the years buying equipment that maybe we didn't need. But, you know, you live and learn. And now I've got other people in the business now that balance that off, where they go, oh, hold on, Rich. No, we don't need to go and spend that.
That's the thing, yeah. I think you even said, like, when we spoke about the cherry picker on the phone a good 2 years ago, whenever it was, and I said, like, it wasn't for us and we were selling it, but you said, but you had a go. And that's correct, you know. I've always taken... So I've always been very much go, but I won't be I've learned as I've got older to have more calculated decisions. So like you said, if you've got an asset and you're buying it, sell it. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's not like you're going to do your balls on it, you know. You're going to lose a little bit, but you know, you have a go. Does it work? Yes, great. No, get rid of it.
Yeah, you got to be bright. You got to be brave in business at the end of the day, because you know you got to seize them opportunities when they're there. And I just think like just hesitating over decisions, you're just kind of wasting time. So yeah, just get it done. And if it doesn't work out, then you know, what can really happen? You know.
And again, that's why I think you make your own luck, because you're doing it. You got the right mindset for it. Yeah. Putting itself out there, having a go. Yes, I mean, like for us, weedy bin cleaning, we had a go at that, didn't we? Yeah. And it was just totally wrong for us, you know. Could be a good business, could have good money, but it was just not right for us.
Didn't fit your model.
No, and it was too many customers for a little bit of money, lots of admin, you know. The lads didn't like, obviously, the smell of bin juice or whatever you call it, you know. So
yes, that's cool.
Understandably as well. It used to stink.
I used to clean that.
Not very nice.
If my wife was here, she'd tell you she cleaned it. But no, you know, at the end of the day, we cleaned the machines. But yeah, it was just wrong. So after trying it for 5-6 months, we packaged it as a start-up business. Sold it to Andy, who now still runs it as Red Bin Cleaning, I think, in Milton Keynes. And but like you say, just had a go, wasn't right, move on, you know.
Yeah, no. So the market. I mean, there are probably other bits and pieces that we do marketing, but we put ourselves into a position now where, you know, we get multiple leads come to us on a daily basis, and I think that's important that you don't rely. I know there's some people out there that are probably doing residential and roof cleaning and stuff like that, and they've just got one person, you know, that they're dealing with. You know, that's just not enough. It might be enough to sustain one man, like a sole trader maybe, but if you want to scale a business, you need to think big. You can't think like a sole trader. You need to think, right, what can I do here? Because it's not easy keeping fleets our size.
We say it all the time.
Day in, day out, it's so tough.
We swallow so much work so quickly because we can get it done quickly because we've got a big team, you know? Yeah. And that's the thing is you go, right, yeah, we've got this. Brilliant.
Massive
contract within 3 weeks. Done. You know?
As an average, I think we need to win 25 grand a week in cleaning work. I would probably say
because you've got no repetitive business really. It's all one-off.
So it's about 25 grand a week, and if you have a week where you have a slow week and you only win 10 grand, what you've then done is you've knocked a week and a half off your lead time.
Yeah.
And then if that consistently happens, and you start thinking, you know, my lead time's down to 5 weeks now, and then it's down to 4 weeks, and it's down to 3 weeks, and you're like, now I'm starting to panic. But then you've got the flip side of that when you go through these really busy periods and you win a big commercial job at 50 grand and you win 20 grand of residential and you're up at 70, 80 grand a week. That extends your lead time to 7 or 8 weeks. And then you've got the opposite problem, but people don't want to wait 7 or 8 weeks to have their roof cleaned. I see people on the groups post all the time about, you know, work and lead time, and they go, well, I'm booked up till November, and I'm like, who's waiting around till November to have their patio cleaned?
Well, we win a lot of work because of that. I mean, we just won one today. It's a £2,000 roof clean. She actually had it booked in with someone else, but we said we can do it within a couple of days, and that was it. Got it. So
that's where we actually really struggle as a business, is actually we're so busy all the time, we've not got any spare capacity. There's never a spare man and a spare van.
See, the way we work though is because, again, what I say about pushing on, if we know we've got, you know, X amount of work, we're looking to get another van, another bloke, push it. We'll get that lead time down all the time. I know it puts a lot of pressure on John, leads, all that sort of stuff, because we're constantly trying to, but that's why we've grown and developed the way we have, because we're constantly pushing and keeping that lead time short because of the amount of work we've got. But then, like I say, if we were to go, well, we've now got a 3-month lead time, Indeed, you know, window cleaners, get us a van, you know, and that's just the way we've operated. Now, I don't know, I'm just saying that's where we're probably a bit different, but as I say, I do understand the sort of one-off clean. You're constantly trying to sort of find it as where we've still got a good load of window cleaning that's just month in, month out. Do you know what I mean?
Well, we do have regular work. We've got quarterlies and monthlies and stuff like that, but that isn't enough to sustain the business. What we rely on at Clean is the big jobs, and we do get offered a lot of that. That's where our experience comes in, and you know we work in partnership with a lot of smaller cleaning companies, and every now and again they'll get a big job drop into their inbox, and it'll be too big. You know, Mike Strange is an example. I know I've worked with Mike. I've priced up 2 or 3 jobs now that he couldn't take on, that he's passed to me, which are kind of much bigger and maybe a little bit maybe beyond him what he can do. So we have that relationship, but we get that kind of work coming into us from all angles, and that's what we rely on as a business, really, to keep ourselves busy.
Cool.
So, yeah.
All right, well, we're actually out of time, and I'll tell you what, I could chat to you for hours, Rich, and I wish we had the memory and all the batteries and all that to
There's
do it.
loads we haven't talked about.
Yeah, I know.
So.
Well, we'll get you on again then, mate, if you're up for it.
Take two,
Yeah, because, really enjoyed it, mate.
Yeah, very
and,
informative.
Yeah,
very much.
Been very, very good.
Thank you.
And really good to meet you as well, and fair play. So, hope you enjoyed that. It's been great to hear Rich's story, and hopefully... Please like, share, follow and subscribe, and we'll see you soon. So thank you. Cheers, Rich.